Hi, I'm Elliot, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about why I hate astrology. I hate astrology. I hate astrology so much that if someone is talking to me that's not a close friend, but like someone on Facebook and they're talking to me about my sign, I just unfriend them immediately because, all right, I don't want to be constrained by culture. I don't want culture to tell me what I am at all. At all. This pertains to gender. This pertains to sexual orientation. This pertains to star sign. That was forced on me at birth, you know? Now, it doesn't mean all that much because I'm not systematically oppressed for being born in when I was born, but I feel like it is the same as any other kind of assignment at birth. Like in India, the caste system that is seems kind of based on the exact same sort of thing. You're just assigned this thing at birth. And okay, so that's my biggest complaint with astrology. I have other complaints. Another complaint with astrology is that there simply is no evidence that the orientation of the solar system with respect to the stars is related to our personalities. There is no evidence of that. Now, people have used astrology and felt like it's so accurate. I have myself. I feel like every time I read a horoscope, it's talking about me somehow. But it's not always my horoscope that I feel that way about. Honestly, I read any horoscope and I feel like it's all talking about me. Um, and so, oh God, it's such a complicated subject. But like, here's another thing: is that I think the zodiac is good. I like the zodiac, but I hate astrology. What does that mean? What's the difference? Well, okay, so if you look up the etymology of these words, astrology comes from astro, star. It's about the stars. Zodiac comes from Latin, I think. I'm not really sure what the original word was, but it meant animal. So the zodiac is a series of animals. It has nothing to do with the stars if you're just basing it off of those words. So when I say the word zodiac, I'm talking about the 12 signs, or some people say 13. I haven't looked deeply into it enough to know which version is the best, but um but I honestly think it's 12 because I just love the number 12, because it's divisible by 4 and 6 and 2 and 3, but I'm a math nerd. Um, but anyway, so yeah, I think the 12 signs are a useful system. I think that they are a very intelligent gathering of archetypes of human personality. Uh, that I don't know. I'm very fascinated by that. I like doing that myself to study humans and to say, okay, there's the ones that are very forceful, and there's the ones who are too allowing of others to be forceful upon them, and then there's the ones who just ignore everything, and then there's the ones who instead of all this, they try to teach the others how to be a certain way or something. There's all these different modes of human experience, and I think they all pertain to the. And I've created my own system too, but it's not based on anything. And that I was just telling it to you just now. There's in my system, I could say there's 12, but sometimes I say there's 13 and 14. Sometimes I say there's 9. Sometimes I say there's 6. It's very complicated. But my point is, well, of course, I'm not going to get to the point because it's a very complicated thing, but let's get back to what I was talking about. And that was the zodiac versus astrology. Now, you can have these 12 archetypes, you can have that 12 archetype system of human personalities without relating it to the stars. Those two things are not connected. The constellations of the ecliptic are not. I know these things because I know astronomy, but I don't know astrology. Anyway, the constellations of the ecliptic are not in any way related to the signs of the zodiac. And furthermore, the relation that culture has given them is not relevant. The order that they go in is not relevant. The groupings that they go in are not relevant. But in zodiac, they are. Now, they have opposites. They have complements. They come in groups of 3, they come in groups of 4, they come in groups of 6, they come in groups of 2. Like I just said with the math thing, it's very ingenious, the zodiac. But the connection to the constellations is not relevant. Anyway, even if the 12 signs are in that order, you can also rearrange it and still make sense of it. You can take the groups of 3 and flip them so that the middle stays the same. It would completely change the order of the entire thing. You can take the groups of 4 and flip them. You can flip opposites over the poles. You can do so many different things and keep the order accurate to what the zodiac really means. Um, but the connection with the constellations does away with that understanding. It rigidifies it, solidifies it, it crystallizes it. The zodiac is something that can be rearranged and looked at in so many different ways, and there's so much intelligence to it. There's so much to learn from studying the 12 signs and how they interrelate, and even with the planets and astrology, as stupid as it is, the planets also have to do with the zodiac, and they mix it together and they give you these really cool like readings, which I think is cool. But what I don't like, well, there's two things I've said so far: the rigidity and the specific systematized order and grouping that the zodiac is placed in according to the constellations. I don't like that at all. I don't like this idea that there's a connection between the planets, the stars, and the personality. I don't think that those things are connected. And also, I hate assignments at birth. Furthermore, this birth date thing is annoying. It's like, okay, all my life, my mom's into astrology or a zodiac. I'm not sure, but I guess astrology because all my life, my mom called me a Taurus. I mean, she's not super into astrology, but she called me a Taurus. And I was born right in between Taurus and Aries, according to the old charts. But in astronomy class, I learned that astrology is based on old charts before the Earth precessed in its axial revolutions, so that the constellations are different now, because we're based our the zodiac the astrology that they use now is based on something that was calibrated like 2,000 years ago. um, but the true constellations now are like way offset, and that told me I was a Pisces. So I'm either a Pisces, an Aries, or a Taurus, and I don't know which one I am. Well, because I am not any of them. That's the truth. Nobody is any of these things. And if you say to someone, or if you say about someone, there were or even if you say there's a group of Gemini walking down the street, or like there was a Gemini standing next to a Taurus, and it's like you can't call people these things. These are like slurs. They're like, because if you look at each horoscope sign, it gives you such a stereotyped, such a simplified version of a human being. It's like you're just a Taurus, you're bull like, and that's what I've been told my whole life, and I've just been like, I'm not that. I've never felt like that. And then if you want to take astrology a step into the next generations of understanding, you should allow your kids to look at the zodiac instead of saying, well, okay, you say you're a Taurus, and then the kid's like, I don't want to be a Taurus. I don't think I am a Taurus. You know, then you say, okay, then look at the zodiac and pick which sign you want to be. And for me, it's like I'm always picking which sign I want to be every day, all the time, constantly, right now, every second. I'm just like, okay, right now I want to be Aquarius for 2 seconds, and then I want to be Capricorn, and then I want to be Pisces, and then I want to be Taurus and Aries, and this and that and this and that. See, I am all 12 signs, and who isn't? Everyone is. Everyone is all 12 signs. And your birth sign has nothing to do with anything. It's not real. And the way that you read horoscopes is not real. Now it can give you a game. It can give you a randomizing factor that will give you synchronicity. But the synchronicity is what's real, not astrology. Astrology is fake. I'm sorry to offend anyone, but it's the fucking truth. Astrology is not real. But the zodiac is real. The zodiac is completely real. I really think that. Um, but nobody is just one sign. Nobody's like a Gemini or whatever, you know? I haven't even said them all. I don't know them all. I'm not even that big into astrology. But like nobody is just one sign. These are archetypes. Nobody is an entire archetype. Like even with gender, for example, a man who believes he's a man and lives his life like that, and he's binary in identity. Even still, he's not 100% masculine archetype. Nobody is that. There's no woman that's 100% feminine archetype. That's why the Romans created these gods in order to, in order to create their archetypes. It's the same thing as the zodiac. Mars is the masculine god and Venus is the feminine god. S or whatever you want to call it, but it doesn't matter. I mean, it kind of does. I kind of feel like the word goddess is sexist, but we will we will get back to that in a different video maybe. I don't know. But yeah, so there's no human who is purely masculine. Everyone has to have a little bit of both or else you're fucked, you know? You got to be a little bit, you have to have, for example, if you consider um like hygiene to be feminine, although a lot of people wouldn't, but you could. because most of the time I think females are more hygienic than males. Males tend to be dirtier. They tend to not care so much what they smell like and if they're covered in dirt or whatever, you know. Um, so without a little bit of if you call that the feminine archetype, without a little bit of that feminine archetype, men would die because they would like get diseases and stuff. They would never wash their hands. They would never wash anything. They would just be dirty and they would just die. And women, I mean, or I should say, well, women, female, the, without any of the masculine archetype, the female would just be like completely helpless. Completely helpless. And that's not very good, you know? So we need a little bit of both. We all do. And I believe that as the future of the human race, you know, passes through us, we we all are going to need to be a little bit more towards the middle because it just helps the society function better. We're becoming more advanced both in our knowledge and our technology and I don't know, other things. It's just that history is accumulating so much right now that I feel like the genders are dissolving and there's no point to being so binary anymore because and I'm talking about in archetype, not in identity. Now a man can still identify as a man, but that is a that is an identity. That's not archetypes. Archetypes are men these days are doing things that used to be considered more feminine, and women these days are doing things that used to be considered more masculine. And they are still men and women. But then there are people like me who are just like, I realize that men are doing things so feminine, women are doing things so masculine that no longer does gender even mean anything. No longer does identity even identity has not kept up with the archetypical mixing. So I have mixed the archetypes so much that my identity no longer, you know, applies to them. But was it really? Well, I don't intentionally do that. It's just the way that my life has progressed through childhood, through teenage years. It's just like I just automatically am a mixture of masculine and feminine in a way that's beyond what most people are, what binary people are, I should say. And that's why I'm non binary. But I don't identify as non binary. Oh my god, this was going to be an entirely separate video, and I have gone off topic. I was trying to talk about astrology, but it is related, so I'll get back to that astrology thing. I don't want to go down that path because it's a long conversation, but we'll do that in another video. So, back to astrology, is that I think in the same way, we, our, our world has become so complicated with so much information going into our heads through the internet and whatever that we can't stick to one archetype. It's not even about gender, but the archetypes, the zodiac, for example, if you want to use that version, there's also the Kundalini, there's also the Kabbalah, and I'm sure there's many other archetypical category systems. And I honestly think they're all the same system. I think they're all connected. But my point is that as we go further into the future, we cannot specialize in one archetype. We have to branch out. And so it's the same thing with the zodiac, is that like I think people these days have to be all 12 signs in order to manage a life in this modern complicated world. Like, and I'm talking about archetypes, not identities. So what that means is that can be uh, a person can okay, so identities is like the names of the signs and the symbols. that go along with those signs. So you identify, identity is what astrology does all the time. But the zodiac is about archetypes, and archetypes and identities are completely different things. What I'm saying is that we need to move from the identity version to the archetype version and start mixing these archetypes and start using these systems in ways that go against the rules, the rigidity, we don't need to worry about the constellations, and we don't need to worry about the holding on to one sign as if that's what you were given at birth and that's what you always will be. Like, that is what's going away. And now I don't believe that at any point in our history has anything changed. I think in the ancient world it was exactly the same, is that these 12 archetypes are eternal and mixable, and you're not stuck to any of them at all, not even the moment at your birth. Plus, here's another thing, is like, why is it about birth? What about before birth? What about when you're in the womb? They don't talk about that because that's 9 months long. That goes through a lot of signs. um, where does it begin? Does it begin the moment you come out? And why is that so special? Is that when consciousness comes into your head? I don't know if that's true. Who knows? It's like the abortion debate. Like, you can't know when the consciousness comes in. So um well, that's a way different topic. I can do a video on that too, but that's a really difficult one. um so generally, what are my complaints about astrology? Number one, that it's rigid. Number two, that it assigns something at birth. Number three, there's no connection between the solar system and the personality. There's no evidence of such a connection. There's no physical theory that could explain such a thing. It's so absurd and so impossible that I don't even want to talk about that. What else? There's more. Uh, Number four, the order in which the zodiac is presented is manipulable. But I suppose that kind of goes back to number one. It's too rigid. But when I say rigid, I mean that you're stuck with one sign for your entire life, and that things just mean things. They don't. Like, Mars does not mean masculinity, and Venus does not mean femininity. The planets don't mean these things. It's just a cultural thing. And so that's why number two, I think it was number two, is so important. That assigning this at birth is stupid because it's a culturally generated illusion that there's no connection between the constellations and the signs. There's no connection between the planets and their historically generated meanings. Like that Saturn is, what is that? The god of parties or something? I don't even know. Saturn was something like that. Jupiter is the god of all gods, and Neptune is the god of the sea. Like, these things are irrelevant. You could call Neptune the god of fire. Why? Why not? Why does it matter? There's no connection between a planet and a human symbol that has to do with other systems that don't relate to the physical planets. Like, what else? So did I do number five? What's number five? Oh, here's another one. Number five, even though I kind of brushed over this a million times, is that astrology and zodiac are not connected. Zodiac is a system of categories of archetypes that can be mixed, that can be manipulated, that can be figured out and applied, and you can analyze life through those, and you can live your life through those. But there's no relation to outer space. None. Not even slightly. Nothing. But of course, my absolute least favorite thing about astrology, as I've already talked about, is that it applies something to me at birth. And I don't think that anyone had any right to tell me what my personality is before I even develop into like an adult or even a child. You know, the moment of your birth, you're just, oh, you've got a bull like personality. You've got a fish like personality. Well, how do you know? Why don't you let me grow into a human being and develop my personality before you tell me what my personality is? There's no such thing as someone having a personality at birth. You cannot assign a personality at birth. All assignments of personality at birth are illusions, the same as gender assigned at birth. It's all illusions. They're not the same, but they have a similar pattern that you can't assign something. You cannot assign a culturally derived symbol to an entire human being at all, at birth or later. It doesn't matter. You cannot assign a single archetype to an entire human because a human is so complicated and so detailed and fluid. And people that say they're not, I mean, everyone is gender fluid. Everyone is gender fluid. No, people say they're not. You can identify as man, you can identify as woman, you can identify as gender fluid or non-binary or whatever. There's a billion identities, infinity. But everyone is non-binary. Everyone is gender fluid, and all rigid genders are illusions. They are simply identities. We all use all the archetypes all the time, and we have to. And if you're letting your fetishization of a singular one of those archetypes take over your entire life, then sometimes that will get in the way. That identity thing will get in the way of doing things in a better way, doing things in a prettier way, doing things in a happier way. Like, you're getting in your own way with these ideas of labels and associations with symbols, like, and trying to stick into one archetype for your entire life all the time. Every time that pops up in your head, it blocks a more rational way of doing things. Rationality, pure rationality, is a perfect mixture of the masculine and the feminine. And the same thing goes for the signs of the zodiac. So I was on a roll there. Fuck. I feel like I lost what I was talking about. But I think I'm done anyway. So yeah, that's why I hate astrology and why I kind of like the zodiac. I think I've said enough. Thanks for watching.